Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're tackling a topic I think we're all familiar with, obesity. We hear about it all the time.
We do.
But this isn't just going to be the same old conversation about it. We're going deeper, way deeper this time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're diving into a document that really digs into, well, all of it. The whys, the hows, everything. It's
Yeah.
like getting that behind-the-scenes look at something we thought we already understood,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
And hopefully by the end of this, we'll be equipped to not just talk about it, but actually understand the complexity of it all.
Mm-hmm.
So like, first things first, right out of the gate, this document jumps into genetics,
Yeah.
which, I mean, we've all heard that some people are just like predisposed to it.
You hear that a lot, right?
Right. But this document takes it a step further and talks about how our bodies are literally wired differently when it comes to metabolism, how we store fat,
Yeah.
all that.
It's true, and it is more complex than just, what you eat is what you get. Some people really are working with a different system.
That's a good way to put it. It's like some people's bodies are just better at utilizing fuel. Kind of like, I don't know, some cars just get better gas mileage.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good analogy. And this is a big BUT, this document really stresses that genetics doesn't mean destiny.
Right, because I was going to say, like, what's the point of even trying if it's all predetermined?
Exactly. So it's more like, think of it as having a predisposition, maybe, to something. Like, maybe your car isn't as fuel efficient, but that doesn't mean you can't take it for a spin. It just means you're going to have to be a little more mindful of your driving habits.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Like, you're not doomed, you just have to, like, be more aware.
Exactly, precisely. Your choices still make a big difference.
Which brings us to those choices, or at least one of the big ones. Diet. In this document, it does not hold back when it comes to calling out those foods. You know the ones, high-calorie, low-nutrient.
Yeah, we all have our weaknesses, right?
Right, but like what is it about those types of foods that makes them so, I don't know, dangerous?
It's kind of like this. You eat a bag of chips, and you're like, okay, that was good, but I'm still hungry. Those chips are calorie dense, so they have a lot of calories packed in, but they lack the nutrients your body really needs.
So it's like filling your car with, like, sugar instead of gas. You might get a quick burst, but it's not going to get you very far.
Exactly. It's not sustainable. Your body needs more than just empty calories to function properly.
Okay, I'm definitely guilty of the chip thing. But even when I'm, like, trying to eat healthier, I feel like there's this other factor, and the document talks about this too. It's like our modern lifestyles, we're just not as active, are we?
No, it's true. I mean, think about it. We drive everywhere. We sit at desks all day. Our grandparents' generation, they were moving constantly, even if they didn't realize it.
Yeah, they weren't necessarily hitting the gym every day, but just like daily life required more activity.
Exactly. And what's interesting, the document actually points out that even if you could burn off all those extra calories from, say, those chips, you'd still be missing the vital nutrients.
It's like, it's a double whammy.
It is.
You're not just getting too much of the bad stuff, you're also not getting enough of the good stuff.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about genetics, we've talked about diet, we've talked about how our lifestyles play a role. But here's where things get really eye-opening and where this document really sets itself apart because it goes beyond just our individual choices. It starts talking about environmental and even socioeconomic factors.
And those are so important, but they often get overlooked.
They do. So can you kind of unpack that a little? What's the connection there?
Well, think about it like this. If you live in a food desert where fresh produce is hard to come by, expensive, and the closest grocery store is a 30-minute drive, but there's a fast food place on every corner.
You're kind of already set up for failure in a way.
Okay, yeah. Or let's say you can't afford a gym membership and it's not safe to go for walks in your neighborhood.
It's like those factors, they kind of stack the deck against you, don't they?
They do. They create these obstacles that are really difficult to overcome no matter how much willpower you have.
It's true. Okay, and if that wasn't enough to think about, the document also throws in another layer, psychological factors. And I'll be honest, this one surprised me a bit.
It's not always obvious, is it?
No.
Yeah.
Like, what's the connection between our mental health and weight?
Well, for example, when we're stressed, our bodies release hormones like cortisol, and cortisol can actually increase our cravings for sugary, fatty foods.
Oh, So it's like a biological response.
It is. And then there's emotional eating, which we've all probably experienced at some point, right? Using food as a way to cope with difficult emotions.
Right, like when you're feeling down, you just want to eat a whole pint of ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking biology, we're talking environment, psychology.
Mhm.
This is way more complex than I think a lot of people realize.
It really is. And then on top of all that, you also have things like hormonal changes, medical conditions, all of which can play a role.
The document actually mentioned hypothyroidism specifically. So it's not just like a willpower issue. It's literally sometimes our body's working against us.
Exactly. There are so many factors at play, and they all interact with each other.
So where does this leave us? If obesity is this multifaceted issue, where do we even begin to address it?
That's the million-dollar question, right? But I think the key takeaway here, and what this document highlights so well, is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
We can't just tell people to eat less, move more, and expect that to solve everything.
Right, it's not that simple. What works for one person might not work for another. We need to be looking at the bigger picture, considering all these different factors.
It's almost like the document is presenting us with this puzzle, this really complex puzzle, but that it's also giving us all the different pieces, and now it's up to us to figure out how to put them all together. That's quite a thought, isn't it?
It is. It's a challenge, but it's one we need to be talking about and actively working towards addressing.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I think we've given everyone a lot to think about today. What are your thoughts on all of this? We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep asking questions and keep diving deeper.